My SEAL told my husband that he should have dragged me to a termination clinic when he had the chance because she thought I trapped him. Now, she's crying a river for forgiveness. My SIL is my husband's half-sister. She was the product of their mother's infidelity. My husband and I bought a house last year which has its own indoor swimming pool. My SIL was super excited when she saw it and asked if she could use it sometimes with her friend. We said it was fine, as long as she gave us a notice before she turned up. She and her friend, Chloe, have used it many times before but almost never when my husband is home. He is a lawyer and works long hours. With the lockdown, my husband has started to work from home. 2 weeks later, they turned up to my house. My husband was in his office, so they go straight to the pool after making small talk. My husband ends up coming out after an hour and we're hanging out in the kitchen. My SIL walks in to get a drink and she starts talking to my husband. Before returning to the pool, she says, "Chloe's going to be so happy to see you." It was weird because my husband and Chloe weren't close. Chloe comes into the kitchen 2 minutes later and spends the rest of her time talking to my husband until he excuses himself to get back to work. She's super giggly and smiley when she talks to him. He would say something sarcastic and she would laugh like it was the funniest joke she's ever heard. It honestly felt like she was flirting with him. Before returning to the pool, she gave me this weird smirky look. Before they leave, they ask my husband if he's working from home every day of the week. He confirms he is. The next 2 weeks, they come over to the house to swim every single day. Except Chloe never gets in the water. Instead, she hangs around the house in her bikini every single day. Whenever my husband comes out to hang around me, she quickly interrupts him and keeps him talking until he has to return to work. I made lunch for us all, and when I excused myself to call my husband down, my SIL quickly stopped me and said Chloe could call him for me. They shared a look, and Chloe looked really happy when she went to get him. Chloe has also started to get touchier with my husband. She put her hands on his chest and arms and stands or sits really close to him. To my husband's credit, he usually creates space between them whenever she does something like this. The reason I believe my SEL is in on this is because she's made a few pregnancy-related jabs at me recently. She told me a story about how one of her friend's boyfriends was cheating on her, and then said something along the lines of, "Did you know a lot of men start cheating when their wives are pregnant?" She's also made comments about how I look chubby now, and it looks weird next to my husband because he's well built. Update. I tried and figured out how I was going to bring up the issue. Turns out, I didn't have to. We were watching a movie and my phone lit up with another text from my SIL telling me she was now going to be here at 1 p.m. the next day to swim with Chloe. My husband saw it and told me to tell her not to come. This is really weird behavior for my husband because he tends to do anything to accommodate my SEL and very rarely refuses her anything. I asked him if something had happened, and he shrugged it off, and we kept watching the movie. A few minutes later, he paused the movie and said he wanted to ask me a question. He asked if I'd noticed Chloe never swam when she came to our house. I ended up laughing hysterically. I said, "Of course I've noticed," and he awkwardly replied, "So, you must have noticed the other thing too." To summarize the conversation that followed, my husband hadn't noticed Chloe was flirting with him the first few days because he was so busy with work, he wasn't really paying attention to anything else. He said when she started getting handsy, he suddenly had the light bulb moment that she was into him. He did privately speak to Chloe and told her he was happily married and wasn't interested in starting anything with anyone else. She never took him seriously because she kept doing it. In the end, he called his sister on Sunday to tell her either she got her to stop or Chloe couldn't come over anymore. His sister ended up having a tantrum and said a few nasty things about me or the baby, our relationship. She insisted I was somehow behind his request and made some comments about how I was controlling and insecure because I looked like a beach whale and Chloe was younger and hotter. He was pretty pissed at this and said if she said something like that about me again, he would stop speaking to her. She claimed I had baby trapped him, and when my husband pointed out we were already married so I didn't need to trap him, and that he was the one who wanted to start a family, she kept insisting I had manipulated him into feeling that way. She said some other stuff along the same lines, but the thing that made my husband finally snap was when she said the baby, was already ruining everything, and it was just going to get worse when it was born, and he should have dragged me to the termination clinic whilst he had the chance. He told her neither she nor Chloe were welcome in our home until they apologized for how they'd been behaving and for what my SIL said. He said he wasn't sure he could ever forgive or forget what she'd said about our child, even if she did apologize, and he couldn't believe she would even think something like that, let alone say it. She started crying and said she was sorry, that she didn't mean it, was just scared to lose him, and wasn't thinking clearly. He hung up on her. He showed me his phone, and she's been calling him and texting him since, begging him to reply. My husband thinks my SIL will eventually turn up even if we tell her not to, but he promised he'd deal with her if she did.